When you talk about critical pedagogy, you're talking about forms of teaching and learning and acting in and on the world that are designed for the liberation of social life in general. And then I realized when you're looking at the GDP, right, gross domestic product of certain countries, comparing them with, you know, the worth of corporations, the wealth of corporations, I began to realize that corporations, which were becoming more and more involved in partnerships with universities, were so powerful that we're not going to really be able to talk about critical citizenship, but we're educating. Right, education is a form of disciplining, right? Labor, right? And educating, you know, for labor power. And we're talking about consumer citizenship. So I thought that that's really where the trap is. We're educating consumers. We're producing consumers. In 2001, September the 11th, there was an attack on New York City and the World Trade Towers. After that attack, the economy was in shambles, and George W. Bush went on television and told the American people to go out and spend. That's the best thing you can do for your country, is just to go out and spend as much money as you can. I'll argue that we're moved towards an 80-20 society. That 20% of the population of the planet will be able to keep the planet functioning, and what will happen to the 80%? Well, in 1994, there was a conference, I believe, at the Fairmont Hotel in San Francisco that Gorbachev organized, and he had a lot of the futurists and politicians and scientists and entrepreneurs, and they all gathered together, and everybody sort of seemed to agree that technology would make about 80% of the population redundant. What do you do with them? And someone came up with the idea, I think it was Brzezinski, who worked for Carter's, I think he was wasn't he the Secretary of Defense for Carter? He said, we need tittytainment. And that means, like using the analogy of the mother's breast, we need something to basically, you know, he meant basically sports channels and television channels. Let's entertain that 80%. And the corporate sector at that meeting apparently said, yeah, but they have to be fed, and that's not our responsibility. So there are all these kinds of debates about what the world, what technology can or cannot enable us to do in terms of saving the planet. I don't think technology can move quickly enough. I think we're at that point right now where we're at a tipping point, and we need to make some decisions very quickly. The capitalist class is not going to listen to reason. They never have, they never will. Critical pedagogy needs to become transnational, and we need to build alliances because any attempt, I think, to create an alternative to capitalism has to be transnational in scope. Socialist countries that have attempted to work in isolation have been destroyed, either militarily by the United States or economically. Got you. So what I'd like to do is create a social movement. Critical pedagogy needs to become transnational. And we need to build alliances because any attempt, I think, to create an alternative to capitalism has to be transnational in scope.